Hello, happy Wednesday. Okay, here we are. So let's talk about growth and let's talk about self compassion and let's talk about how those change as we go through our journey. So for me, when I was in my initial shock trauma phase, and no, that's not a technical term, that's a jewel term, because I really don't have a better way to explain it. Everything exploded, imploded, turned upside down, inside out overnight. And when that happened, I was just on my knees. And at that point, I had a difficult time just taking one breath after the other. And so my growth in that chapter of my healing was all about finding a seed of faith, a seed of hope, a seed of belief that this was not going to be the rest of my life, that there would be something better at some point. And when I found that seed, I would grab that seed consciously and then decide to take another breath. And then I would grab that seed, that belief, and I would take another breath. And so at that point, that was my growth. Unfortunately, before that, I thought that I knew so well about mind body connection, about mental health, and about self awareness and confidence and truth and all those things. I thought I had all those in place, but not deep enough. It was all quite a bit more shallow than my shock went and brought me to. And so when I entered into that shock, I realized that a lot of my life really, and a lot of my hopes and dreams for the future were contingent on circumstances. And circumstances are not your truth, right? They're details out there. And it took me a few years to figure that out. And that is why one of the affirmations on the interactive self love boosters, one of those is, I am more than my circumstances, because you are. Circumstances are details, they're facts, they're around you, they're not inside you. And so that was a big part of my growth, that when I realized that, a lot of things changed for me. And up until then, though, I really needed to fight, first of all, for that one breath, that one seed of hope, so I could take that one breath. And that's what growth looked like then. Later, growth looked like being kind to myself and learning how to do that all over again. Because actually, now when I look back, I hadn't been very kind to myself. I had been kind to my goals, and I had been loyal to my goals and to what I thought I wanted my life to look like, but not to myself. So there's a big difference between those two. And then growth looked like really understanding that truth was going to be my biggest ally. And that, as much as I hated the truth, in fact, one time in my journal, and I saw this a few years later, I wrote down, I said, truth is truth. It doesn't care if I like it or not. At that point in my life, the truth was harsh and cruel, and felt like it was ending everything for me. And in a way, it kind of did. But in its place, I found bigger truths. I found powerful truths, and I found them within. And that is a lot more valuable, because now circumstances around me don't have the same impact on how I feel about myself, about who I am, why I am. Circumstances don't get to affect that so much anymore. So what I've realized about that is that at this point, my growth demanded that in order to get there, I needed to draw boundaries with myself. So often we're talking about boundaries with other people, and and how to build those and how to maintain them and how to reevaluate them. And that's something that we work on in my with my private clients. We work on that, and we do boundary work, but we also do the boundary work that we want to establish at a certain point in our growth journey. We want to establish boundaries with ourselves, and not to push anything into denial or push it back into the unconscious, because we don't want to do that. But we do want to be very aware of our thoughts, what those sound like, what they feel like, what's happening when those are coming at us. And then again, I cannot stress enough, do the interactive meditations every single day. I am enough. Even if you don't believe it, continue to remind yourself. Why? Because when we both hear it and we speak it, now the unconscious has a better chance of really incorporating that truth, because that is a truth. I didn't know that was a truth before, right? So before, when I talk about truth is truth, it doesn't care if I like it or not. Those truths were very much circumstantial, and they were about what was happening around me. They weren't about who I am. And so that's what I mean when I say I found better truths, I found deeper truths, because the actual truths that then I found on my subsequent journey are the fact that I am enough. Even if it doesn't feel like it, I still am. That is a truth. And I am more than my feelings, right? You'll recognize that if you're doing these every day. I am more than my feelings. I am more than my circumstances. Those two are huge statements to remind yourself of, remind your unconscious of, remind your thought patterns of every single day. And those are going to be an important part of an important aspect of your growth journey. So, okay, let's go back to growth and how it looks different in different parts of our journey. So, okay, so sometimes growth is fighting for that next breath and a reason to take it. And if that's where you're at, I am sending you so much love, and I'm sending you my belief that this is not your destiny. This is not where it ends. This is not where your path is going to culminate and then keep you stuck here. Right? At some point, we re-educate our entire being to go ahead and breathe on its own again, and does the breathing for you, where it doesn't have to be a conscious battle for each one. And if that's where you're at, and you feel like there's no hope for you, and that this is something that everyone else gets to go live their life, their happy life, but not you. I know what that feels like. I've been there, and I've helped many clients get from there to the most phenomenal things in their life, but first within themselves. So if that's you and this is tugging at you, send me a message and let's talk about what that can look like. Okay. All right. Whatever you do, just keep finding that belief that it matters, that you matter, and that it matters that you take this next breath, not for anyone else, for yourself, for your own self, because you are that important. You are that worth the effort, your own effort first and foremost, and then the effort of those around you will show up. But first, we need to put in the effort for ourselves and say, yes, I will believe that something better is coming. And so I will take that next breath, and I will take another breath. And if you're having a difficult time believing, something beautiful that was offered to me in my time when I didn't believe at all, something beautiful that was offered to me then was the concept that someone else can believe for you. And so allow me to step in and be the believer for you. And so whenever you feel discouraged and you feel like, I don't believe anymore. I know Jewel said to believe, and I'm trying to find that seed of hope. I'm trying to find that seed of faith that this is not the end of my story. This is not where I'm going to be for the rest of my days. If you run out of that, just remember that I'm right here and I'm believing for you. And so borrow, and this actually works. So borrow my belief that there are better days coming. Borrow my belief that your next breath matters. Take it and use it whenever you feel like you've run out of your own. Okay. All right. So that is what growth can look like. And let's not beat ourselves up for having that be where we're at. If that's where you're at, take that next breath. Now, if you've conquered that part, right? And you've now expanded into the next part of your growth, what that can look like is learning how to be kind to yourself, learning how to be understanding with yourself, learning how to be patient with yourself. I find patience is a really big thing, right? Because we want this whole growth thing. We want it to be a nice, shiny uphill road and, some flowers on the side. And it's just this wonderful, beautiful, linear experience, but it doesn't work that way, right? Because every time you take even one step upward, your nervous system goes, and it wants to push you back down. And so a lot of times what happens actually is that, and this usually happens in week 4. I have an 8-week program. And usually around week 4 is when something will happen in my client's life, their circumstances, something will happen that will kind of knock them down on their knees. And they'll feel like they're needing to start over, and they'll be very frustrated. And it will be so tempting to just lose patience and give up and say, this doesn't work. It's not going to work for me. I'm that one person it's not going to work for. And then we actually take another look, and we go back and we figure out where the gaps are now, because those gaps, they're evolving all the time, right? So when we first start, there's a huge gap, and you and I figure out where those are, and then we do the work to bring truth to those gaps and to bring healing to those gaps. And then 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, those gaps have shifted because now you've done a bunch of work, right? So the gaps shift. And the beautiful thing is that when you do the stretch, it's like the elastic band, and I see it all the time. When you do the stretching and you get to, say, we start out here, and then we're doing the work and we feel like we're here, and then something happens and we feel like we're here. We're actually not. What's happened is it's just we love being here so much, so that then when something happens, we come down here, and it's discouraging and it's frustrating. And so that's when it's really important to have someone who will journey that with you, so that instead of getting frustrated and giving up, you actually realize you haven't come all the way down. You're here still because you've done all that other work, right? And so now you're here, and you actually, instead of when we process this and we work through this the right way, not the kind of brush it aside, pretend it's not happening way, right? Because that's tempting too. Okay, so we started here, we're here, something happens, we come down to here. Now here's the beautiful part. That's a lot of here's, sorry. Now what happens now is absolutely amazing, because when we do this work here at this level, the level that we came down to, we actually, instead of going back to where we were, we now come here. So it's a beautiful process, but it can be scary and frustrating, and we can lose our patience, and we can lose our sort of our willingness to continue to put in the effort. It's very easy to lose that when you're doing this by yourself. I know, because I had to do it by myself, because no matter where I looked for help, I couldn't get it. So I found bits and pieces here and there and there and here. And now we have this beautiful system, this beautiful secret sauce that that allows you to not have to do that. Anyway, okay. So growth. Okay, so you're learning how to be kind to yourself, how to be patient with yourself, and we just went into all that. How to not lose your desire to continue to put in the effort, right? A lot of times that can even show up in a tiny thing, such a small thing, by just eliminating doing your 1 minute interactive self-love booster meditation every day. All of a sudden that starts slipping. And you can tell. So if you take a step back, you can see, oh, I'm letting that go. Okay, so let's bring that back. And now when you bring that back, you're reminding your entire being, your unconscious, your body, and your conscious mind, right? All of you, you're a whole being. You're reminding all of you that you are worth the effort. And so that 1 minute has even more than the truths you're speaking out loud to yourself. It has more than that. It has the reminder to your entire being, I am worth the effort. I am worth the effort, and I'm living it. I'm doing it. I'm grounding it. I'm anchoring the fact that I am worth the effort, and I will take the effort and do this 1 minute thing, even though it feels silly and it feels useless. And I don't think it's doing anything. Okay, do it. I promise. Okay, and then we continue our growth, right? So then we bring that back, we remind ourselves we're worth the effort, and we continue to go. And so now we're kind of back on, it's actually kind of cool, because sometimes we get that smooth upward angle, right? On that, okay, I'm healing, and we get that smooth path for a little bit. Maybe it's a few weeks or a few months, maybe it's a day, and it just feels amazing. And then when it's interrupted, it's hard. And then we begin to wonder, am I doing something wrong? Am I not doing this right? What's wrong with me that I cannot get this smooth sailing the way it looks like everyone else does? No one else does. I'm here to tell you, no one else gets the smooth sailing. They might make it look like they do, but they don't. Every single person dealing with trauma and dealing with CPTSD, especially, right? So we're mostly talking about CPTSD here. So when we have CPTSD, none of us get that smooth road. And so what we want to do then, when the bumps come, is we want to remind ourselves to be compassionate with ourselves. Okay, what does compassion look like? Again, just like the growth chapters in your journey, compassion actually looks different in those moments too. So it starts with having enough compassion for yourself to put in the effort and to take that next breath. Then it's having enough compassion with yourself to be kind to yourself and learn how to do that really in an authentic way. This is so much more than going to have a mani-pedi day, right? Or a spa day. This is more than that. This is deep inner stuff. That other stuff is nice and it feels good and it's nice for your body and it's nice to even have the tactile, but it's not the inner work that is begging to it's begging for your attention, right? So when we have self-compassion, we know that that is where we want to put in the effort. And then at some point, self-compassion means learning how to forgive ourselves. And if you're anything like me, deep down, there is very likely still a seed of that was your fault. If only you had, if only you hadn't, if only you would have, right? And so we want to actually go ahead and take a look at those messages, those tiny seeds that are just fermenting down there in your unconscious, way down in the basement, in the dark corner, way over there that you thought you'd cleaned out, but there are still those tiny seeds. And so you want to do your interactive meditations every day, because those will give you the impetus to continue to go and see the little seed of poison in that dark, dank corner in the basement. And when you see it, then we deal with it and we go, okay, so there's some forgiveness that needs to happen here. And a lot of times I find forgiveness and grief go hand in hand, right? Because in my case anyway, the forgiveness part wasn't what I actually needed, but it looked like it did, right? It wasn't all forgiveness. There was also the grief and the permission to grieve. And so sometimes self-compassion looks like giving yourself permission to grieve, giving yourself permission to put in the effort, giving yourself permission to now, and this is a big one, to grow and like really grow, which means at some point in your journey, there is a moment where you now enter the chapter where it's time to take a risk. That can be the scariest thing, and your nervous system will freak out at you, even at just the word that I just said to you. You're gonna be like, okay, I'm out, I'm done. And I understand. So that is why we work so hard to build and we want to do this on such a deeply conscious level, to build this relationship, this friendship, this best friendship with our nervous system, so that we can actually do any kind of risk taking with our nervous system supporting us. So we have each other's backs. It's really important to have each other's backs, which means if your nervous system says, we took enough steps today, I'm done, then you listen and you lean into that and you go, okay, so for the rest of the day, we're going to do some meditating. We're going to do a nap. We're going to listen to one of those group rims. We're going to do a thought purge. We're going to go sit by water, stare at water. We're going to just sit and watch TV with a blanket on the sofa and maybe whatever fur baby you have and just snuggle them close. So your kind of recovery time from stretching, when your self-compassion and your growth journey is now saying it's time to stretch, you stretch a little and then you come back and you recover, basically. And then you stretch a little more tomorrow and then you recover. And sometimes you can only stretch 1 day a week, and then it takes a whole week to recover. I remember at one point, I could take one phone call a day. That was it, one phone call. And after that, I would sleep 2-3 hours after that one phone call. And it just took everything out of me. And that was the best I could do. And so I did that. And then I would rest. And I didn't even know consciously, because I literally didn't have a choice. Like I had to. I had to recuperate my nervous system in such an extreme way. And so if that's you, don't feel bad and know you're not going to be in this state forever. I promise you. As you continue to do this in a way where you are best friending your nervous system, if the two of you do this together and you really listen and you listen to your intuition, which they're all connected, right? So your intuition, your nervous system, they're going to tell you, okay, let's do more. Right. Okay. So let's talk about the sequence of what that can look like. Okay. So you listen to your intuition tells you, okay, it's time to take this step. Your self-compassion and your growth chapter is now asking you to take this step. Don't take that one. That one's going to be useless. Take this one. And you really, because you've spent this time building this relationship with your intuition as well. So now when your intuition speaks, you can really hear it. And it gives you very clear directions. Incredibly cool. And so you take that direction, you go, okay, so I need to take this step. All right, because I'm listening to the intuition and I do feel ready. So you go ahead and you take that step. Only take one. Okay. And then you check in with your nervous system. How did that feel? How did that go? What do I need now? Ask your nervous system, what do I need now? Do I need rest? Do I need a walk? Do I need jumping jacks? Do I need water? Do I need feet in the grass outside? Do I need to go hold a tree in the palms of my hands? Do I need to snuggle my puppies or my cats? So really listening to your nervous system after you've taken that one step, right? And if that's it for today, that's okay. And then tomorrow, maybe you're ready for another step. And you listen again, you listen to your intuition telling you this is the step I want you to take. Okay. So you go ahead, you take that step, and then you take a step back and you check in with your nervous system. And maybe today your nervous system is like, that was easy, let's do more. Okay. And then you're able to go take another step and you check in with, we want to keep building this relationship with the nervous system. How was that? Are you okay? Can we take 5 minutes to just rest and celebrate and check in? And then if I feel like there's more I can do, okay, good, let's go do more. And if nervous system says, I'm done, I'm out, let's try again tomorrow. Okay. And now your self-compassion is is being asked to step in and to be kind enough to you to, yes, listen to the intuition and take that step, but also having the self-compassion to listen to your nervous system and follow through, right? Remember that trust you're building. So as soon as you start breaking trust with your nervous system comes back with anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and all the things, right? You won't be able to sleep, and all the things, all those initial trauma responses, they will come back in because now your nervous system is saying, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. And so now I have to freak out. Now I have to get your attention because you're not listening, right? And so we want to keep listening, not just listening, but active listening, which means we follow through on the building trust. Okay. So I hope that helps. Yeah. So the self-compassion and the growth and the healing, when we have all those changing as we continue our journey, remember that it's okay to be in the space you're in right now and to be self-compassionate in this moment and to know that it's okay. And then tomorrow your intuition may tell you it's time to take a step, and it may feel like a huge risk and it can be the scariest thing in the world. And if that is the case, and your nervous system is freaking out saying there is no way we are not doing this, then I encourage you to just dip a toe and then step back and check in with yourself and recover. And then tomorrow, maybe dip a toe again, maybe your foot, maybe the whole foot, right? And just check it out and then step back again, right? So we're not in a race. The goal is to nurture and love and have compassion and have patience and really just be kind to yourself. It's so interesting how we talk about be kind, be kind, be kind. We need more kindness in the world. Yes, we do. And I 1000% agree with that. However, it starts with being kind here. It starts with being kind to ourselves first. And so this week, I encourage you to be kind to yourself. I also encourage you that if you're thinking you might want to do some more intense work, just you and I, send me a message and we can talk about that. Okay. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope that you have a deepened sense of compassion for where you're at right now. And I'm going to leave you with one more little quote. So when you're frustrated and when you feel like nothing's working the way that you want it to work or you thought it would work, that was my big one, or you wish it would work, repeat this with me. This is what it looks like while it's all coming together. that this is just a moment. This is a piece of the giant puzzle. This is what it looks like while it's all coming together. Write that down, put it somewhere where you can see it if you're feeling frustrated. This is what it looks like while it's all coming together. Okay, and I promise you it will come together if you continue to do this work. Okay, have a beautiful rest of your week, and I will see you guys next week.